Do you think you were ready for F1 in 1992?
Wow, that's a good question. I wish I could have started Formula One in '93 and not in '92, but still have raced in '92 in maybe 3000 again, because I was so much more comfortable in the car in '93 than I was in '92. It was a huge difference, and my self-confidence was a lot higher in '93. I remember me arriving in South Africa in '92, and I remember the difference of me arriving in South Africa in '93. And we ran extremely strong in '93. I finished the race in fourth, was almost on the podium with Ayrton and Alan. But I think the biggest difference was my mindset. Like, everything to me in '92 was new. And I remember when I did my first picture together with all those greats next to me, I said, wow, I'm finally here. Like Nigel, Ayrton, Gerhard, like all these huge guys are taking my first F1 picture together with me. And '93, it was different. Like the respect obviously was exactly the same, but I was sort of shrugging my shoulders a little bit more and looking at it as a job. Like, okay, let's get this done and move on.
It's really interesting that you mentioned Senna, because of course, you know, '92, your first season, he was at the peak of his powers, his fame was huge. Did that make it easier or more difficult for a young Brazilian to come into Formula One?
I think it wasn't comparable because both Rubens and I started a year earlier than Rubens. I started '92. He started '93, but Ayrton was on a different planet, pretty much. Like, he was on a different stage of his racing career. We were starting. He was like sort of
the man.
The man, exactly. He was at his prime in those days. So it wasn't even a comparable aspect of it. He went on to do his stuff, and we went on to do our stuff like the best way as possible. But it's not that we were comparing this or that, because it wasn't comparable. He was on a complete different environment in those days.
Was he welcoming?
Yes, always welcoming. Always, every now and then, went by and asked me, "Do you need something? Is everything okay? Any advice?" But again, as I mentioned before, like, he was taking care of himself. With all due respect, that's exactly what he was supposed to do. Like, see what was his best option, and within all the options he had, try to capitalize as much as he could, either being a McLaren that he was driving, and then afterwards the Williams. So he was taking care of Ayrton, but every time he bumped into us, he was always forthcoming. Is it the correct word?
Yeah.
And always trying to be helpful towards us.